Hi, everybody. Guess what? It's my B day tomorrow, which means I'm having a bit of a pumpkin pie shake right now. And of course, my birthday always puts me in a pretty reflective mood, which is not the same as a pity party, okay? Because I saved begonia, which has been really difficult for me because I was really excited about it. I saved that as a little birthday treat for me tomorrow. I'm so psyched about it. um, and of course, I got my free popcorn, my free drink because I'm an AMCA lister, so they like to show out for us. um, so I got that going for me. And I'm having like all these fun meals. That like I never splurge on normally, but I've been doing it every night this weekend for myself. So I've been hitting all the delicious vegan hot spots, and I even took Monday off, which I might see Die My Love on that day, like a matinee. Like, how much fun is that? So I've been really looking forward to that one too. Um, but I needed this because a few weeks back I actually had walking pneumonia, and it wasn't like I refused to take time off, but like I couldn't, like even right now today. In order to take tomorrow and Monday off, like I just got home from working my second job, so um it's like I couldn't take time off. I had a bit of resurgence of it over Halloween weekend, and my doctor and I have a very antagonistic relationship for many reasons, and of course this one being one. I mean, I have an there's an antagonism that I have with doctors. I used to want to be a surgeon, and I feel like anyone who sees behind the scenes of what goes on, it's like, trust me, you're never gonna trust these people with your life again. Um, but that's a story for a different time. Can't get into that right now. Because the chest. Okay, that was. See, I'm doing better. I'm doing a lot better. That's actually like a lot better. Um, but yeah. So like, I went in over on Halloween weekend, and I was just like, oh, fuck, like my chest aches really bad, and I've been having all these coughing fits and stuff. And he's like listening to my chest, and he's just takes a sigh, like, pretty much, like, throws his stethoscope to the side, and he's just like, "Look, do you wanna die?" Like, like and I'm just, like, looking at him like, "Eh, you know." And I was like, "Aren't we all dying, doctor?" Which I said just to piss him off. I knew it would upset him, and of course it did. Um and he's like, "Look, you have to rest. Like, you can die, okay? Like, and if you keep this up, you will die." I'm like, "And what can I get you to understand? You can die of this." I'm like, I feel like you're not taking me seriously. um, but yeah, so and I was just like, "Look, I feel like you're not understanding me, that it's like ends gotta meet, doctor, okay? It's not like it's not like I'm just like trying not to take time off. It's not like I'm, pushing myself so hard for no reason. Like, why do you think I'm doing all this? I have to work as much as I do. I gotta pay my fucking rent. Like, I mean, I have to care for the needs of my aging bulldog who does need his rest, who needs his medications, who needs his top of the line food, and who needs his luxury. So obviously, I'm working myself to the grave to get those things for him. Obviously, you understand, doctor." He didn't. Um, but I know all of you do. And all of you would do it just the same as I would, working ourselves into an early grave for our aging dogs. He's sleeping over there with his head on a pillow, just like a human. You know, and see, this is why I work myself to death. Okay? Anyone can see it. If you could see him right now, you'd be like, I understand. I know it. But birthdays, deadly viruses, aging dogs, it does bring up a favorite meditative topic of mine, which of course is death. I've been thinking about it a lot. I typically do. Um, I think about it a lot. Um, and when I was a kid, it used to keep me up at night. And I used to really fear it because I just really didn't understand it. And you kind of just get the vibe of like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna die, and it can kind of happen at any moment. And of course, that just like snowballed out of control about like asteroids and comets and pestilence and plagues and all this kind of shit. And then, there's like no one around to answer my question. It was like, go the fuck to bed. Just stop. You're like fucking 4 years old. Just stop. Go to bed. No questions being answered here. Um, but I feel like once you face it, it has no power over you. And I feel like it's futile to fear something that's inevitable. Um, but indulge me anyway. As a birthday gift as I muse about death. So dying has a smell and death has a smell. My home currently is filled with the smell of an old dog dying, which consists of piss, cortisol, and marigolds. I mean, I'm not sure how imminent it is, you know. He has his good days and his bad, just like all dogs do. And I adopted him when he was almost at life expectancy for a bulldog, so, I knew what I was getting myself into. And I love old dogs. I mean, I love old men. I think I just I have a thing. I just love old things, I don't know. But for similar and different reasons, of course. Old dogs to me are a test of true love. It boldens the preciousness of life. As their body and mind break down, it shows you much more what you're made of than them. It either strengthens the bond of friendship and compassion or severs them. Because a couple years ago, Bugley's family dropped him off at the local humane society simply because he was old. They got him as a pup, like a pup, and they got him as a puppy, and he's perfect looking, and he has just like the most wonderful little soul. But a bulldog's care as they age is admittedly exceptionally brutal. Um, and as he's gotten older, his care has, I mean, it's put an incredible strain on my heart and body. I'm starting to feel like the old dog dying. Because I have to act as his crutch to this almost 70-pound dog every time he needs to go outside to go to the bathroom. It's not that he can't walk, because trust me, I am one of those people, I'm very attuned to his quality of life and will balance the scales of suffering generously in favor of him never suffering. I hate to see my friends pass, but I will always do the kind thing, even when I want nothing else but to hold on forever. But when I had my walking pneumonia, the doctor and I couldn't figure out where the tears in my body had come from. Was it lifting the dog or coughing to death? um, but I'm someone who I don't subscribe to the belief that we don't owe each other anything. Oh, we absolutely do. We owe each other compassion, dignity, and value. And maybe I'm the one giving those things now, but I hope those things come my way when I'm old. I don't believe it's a sainthood. I think it's just a simple physics of reciprocity. We should be there to usher the responsibilities that we take on through and out. And I always try to make it fun, even when it becomes much more about making them comfortable. And most people are deeply intuitive when it comes to their pets. You know when it's coming. But I'm proud of my ability not to hover and excessively worry and cry, because that grief's only for you. Trust you'll have plenty of time to grieve them after they're gone, but for now, they're living days that you can darken with sadness or fill with lasting memories. When my pug Hamlet, I don't want to say stopped walking because he wanted to. It's just that he would hurt himself doing it. So, um, I'll say when I stopped allowing him to take long walks, which he was furious about, of course. But I walked him around in a stroller because you know what? He liked getting out and he was an exceptionally active and social dog. So it killed him not to be able to get out for his walks. And of course, like I was embarrassed at first. Like, oh my God, I'm like one of those LA people walking a little dog in a sailor suit around in a stroller, you know? But that really quickly changed because of how much fun those walks were. he'd wait by the door every evening, ready to go, like he had his little watch on. um, and we met so many people around our neighborhood. Everyone had to stop and meet Hamlet. He was on so many Instagrams. We got stopped one night by someone who was like, I think I saw him on my friend's page. Is that Hamlet? And oh, yes, it was. Oh, we became such a staple. I received an outpouring of love when he passed. People I didn't even meet would run up to me and say, I see you guys walking by my window every night. And I would love it. And I would look out there and I'd see him raising his head to the wind, being pushed around in his little cart. And it just made me so happy. Yeah, we truly were lone wolf and cub. But instead of bringing death and murder in our stead, we brought laughs and happiness. We took our last evening walk the night before he passed. It was a rainy evening, so he was in his raincoat. And I remember thinking about before I got Hamlet, how dearly I wanted a pug, especially for a moment like this. My prized pug in his cute little raincoat, sharing an intimate walk in a vibrant area filled with plenty of adoration from the public. And this was everything I had always wanted. And while, yes, the role of caretaker can be a heavy toll, the friendship, man, it's just always had more weight. And I started fostering Bugley after my little soulmate Hamlet had passed away, and I was so shattered and heartbroken, and everything felt so empty without him. I needed a pal around. And Buggy's been perfect. He doesn't like to cuddle, but he does sit right by my feet and tries his hardest to embrace as much of the costumes and luxuries as possible, even though it doesn't come naturally to him at all. He's a kind dog. At any moment, I can look up, as I frequently see me looking off camera doing, and I can see him staring at me above his overbite. Hearts for eyes. And he's someone that helps me clean up when I cook. A little sous chef just like Hamlet. And even though the bond's different, which leaves me feeling guilty, I love Bugley. And I'm gonna miss him. There will be a bulldog shape in my heart when he's not around. And even though I'm coming up on only having him for 2 years, I still have plenty of stories to keep him alive forever. And that's the key. It's something I tell everyone, child to adult, when I do grief therapy. Don't boil down their entire life to one tragic moment. Of course, it's easier said than done, especially in the beginning, but tell their stories, share their pictures, keep their keepsakes. They're not the body that they left behind. They're everything leading up to being gone forever. And Bugley, like all my dogs, is one of a kind. A celebrity around the neighborhood that I'm sure will have the same outpouring of grief as Hamlet had. In fact, I actually had somebody talk to me about Hamlet just the other day, and he died 2 years ago, coming up in January. And it hurt a little, but it also felt like I don't even know how to describe it. But it let me know he wasn't just living in my mind, but his existence echoed. Now, something much, much more tragic. I kind of debated including this, but I think it's important. But something much more tragic happened around here that I thought also might be like affecting the heaviness that I was feeling in my chest. I'm like, I'm not sure, if it's physiological at this point. Um, but my upstairs neighbor died by suicide uh, a couple weeks ago, and we didn't know it until Halloween Day. Um, After we all kind of complained of this really terrible smell, thinking that like a rat had climbed into the wall and died, it was discovered it was my upstairs neighbor. And I used to hear him every night, like sounding like he was like bowling up there. I don't know what that was. Um, but it's eerily silent without the noise now. And I don't know. I've been having really some strong feelings, obviously, but I feel like everyone around here has been treating it like tea to be spilled. His empty door like a theme park. People are visiting it, talking about it, joking about the smell. But the thing that really gets me is like they're treating it like it's some salacious gossip. A man took his life. I mean, everyone's been sad, maybe depressed, but we're still here. Imagine the level of exhaustion he felt. Suicide to me is very much illustrated by those terrible pictures of people jumping out of the Twin Towers on 9/11. The intensity, the waiting, the helplessness, the hopelessness gets so overwhelming. Your only option of escape is death. It feels inevitable. And I'm haunted that a person just above me was in so much pain. I filed through my brain. Was our last interaction nice? Was there a cry for help I didn't hear? He was so alone, it took for the smell for him to be discovered. Well, that weekend, a cleaning crew arrived and his stuff was out, all boxed up on the sidewalk. Neighbors went through it to gawk and collect like vultures at some macabre garage sale. A man died, and all he became was just a tragic act. He was a person. That's what was left of his life, and you're picking through it for a good story. I mean, I'll admit, I took something too, but not for the kind of story that they wanted to tell. I took it so that someone would never forget it. Not the tragic end, but the person that I've invited into my home with his totem. I'm not sure what value the trinket may have had to him, but I kept it, and I placed it with all of the other memorials to people who have passed in my life, so just the same, it used to belong to someone I knew. I thought about bringing it to a cemetery, but I also kind of hate how cemeteries become kind of like just amusement parks now. And I love cemeteries, but I go to visit the people. To really commune in a really serene, meditative place, surrounded with silent life. Who are they? Each headstone an invitation into a life story. I have my graves I've followed over time. At the cemetery my grandmother is buried, there's a baby and a mother who died a few months after. Those gravestones have minimal information and were never visited. I leave something every time I go, not physical, but my grace. Because whatever happened, they deserve that at least. And there was a son and father that died on the same day. It was obviously an accident. And the father was in his early 30s. And that grave used to be decorated every holiday, every birthday, every back to school, man, to the nines. And I never saw her, but I always saw her adornments. Then one day, about, I don't know, 10 years later, it all stopped. No more decorations, no more visitations. The picture on the grave became faded. And I always wondered about her. Did she move? Did she move on? Not in the sense of leaving them behind, but no longer needing to spend all of these hallmarks graveside, and instead maybe integrating her past husband and child into her new traditions. You have to assume she was also late 20s to early 30s, and the rest of her life was waiting for her. She couldn't and didn't need to spend every milestone here to carry them into her future. Maybe now she has another family. Maybe She has somewhere to be on Christmas. She's freed herself from the solitude of grief, and I'm happy for her wherever she is. She transformed her grief into more love, more memories, more life, and it takes an extraordinary person to see this is truly the best way to memorialize. Another thing I tell my clients during grief: you're only hurting so much because you loved so much. And the value of one's life is how many different spaces they have carved in their hearts from all the different beings that they ever loved. And it takes so much courage to do so because love will inherently always be touched by grief. But the more you do it, the more you live. So if you stuck around during my musings, thank you, because it's all about to culminate in the two I have for you tonight about love, life, and grief. Some of my favorite movies of all time. E.T. that came out in 1982, which shoot, I have the Blu-ray on my shelf there, but I'm not going to get up to get it. Sorry. I also have somewhere buried in keepsake box the original VHS tape that I used to watch it on. Um, but yeah, E.T. that came out in 1982 with Arrival that came out in 2016. So E.T. will always hold sentimental value for me. It's the first movie I ever watched. At 3 years old, I endlessly rewound and watched that VHS copy in love and fear and obsession. At E.T.'s heart, it's a story about the nature of empathy, connection, and most importantly, love. The movie kicks off with men and their flashlights or guns, if you saw it pre-edit, shown only from the waist down, stomping, jangling, violently invading the ET's quiet, gentle, natural space. In fact, no adults were shown full-faced until they expressed what came to the children in this species so easily. What else can childhood be summed up as but your heart at its boldest and most receptive? Children may not be better at expressing or controlling it, but they're better at feeling. A large, beating, bright red heart ready to soak up all the world can teach, not yet shaped by grief. I feel like if you're lucky in life, everyone gets one soulmate. Whether that be familial, romantic, or platonic, you'll meet that soul that understands yours so perfectly no one's been able to agree on the right words to describe it. Eliot had E.T., and then later in my life, there was Hamlet and me. He still exists, even if much like Eliot and his family, only reflected by those that knew him. And that way he never left, even though he had to go home. Bodies don't last forever, but maybe souls do. And grief is the absolute worst inevitability of love. You carry it with you forever. Although the lesson, which is always easier said than done, is your heart either grows with an imprint in with their imprint in the center, that helps connect all the other loves that will expand it, or it becomes a moat that disconnects and destroys it. I can imagine E.T. will always be with Elliot. Even all these years later, his children will tell their children, siblings, friends, neighbors, and E.T. will be more alive and present than some of us in life ever are. Similarly to when I got a call from my sister not too long ago, on the anniversary of Hamlet's birthday, a day I thought only I remembered. My niece's class sang happy birthday to Hamlet and drew pictures of a pug and touched a person so profoundly they will never even meet. It reminded me that even though he couldn't stay, he'd always be right here. And how apropos it was children with their bold hearts that hopefully had yet to understand grief, express love better than any adult ever has. E.T. is a movie that teaches us that not only is it okay to love, it's an act of empathetic strength that'll have children take on the federal government through a high speed, high flying bike chase, even when we know what is just on the other side. It takes us to our highest highs and lowest lows. But Spielberg's a man who understands that it isn't the grandest declarations, the right words, or perfect expression, but the messy acts of a heart that can overcome knowing when the John Williams score crescendos and our feet are placed bumpily back down on the ground. We're going to have to say goodbye. And it's not about letting go, but about continuing even when the physical experience is gone. E.T., he's going to live forever. Spielberg, totally going to live forever. Everyone on and off camera who had a part in making this film will live forever. And so will Hamlet. And so will you. And maybe if I'm lucky enough, so will I. And with each new viewing, I hope cinema, our stories, equally never die. Now, I consider Arrival, as I've talked about before, a spiritual adaptation of Stranger in a Strange Land. And I kind of realized, I kind of rewatched, this is the last time I rewatched it actually, which is a few days ago, that it's actually based on a novella called Story of Your Life, which I'm sure was like hugely influenced by Stranger in a Strange Land, because like what sci-fi isn't influenced by Island? Like, let's be honest. Um, but in the way that it captures, I think that the aliens are so foreign, so distant from our own reality. They seem completely removed from anything that we could ever understand. However, similarly to E.T., the more that Louise gets to know the heptapods, the more they start to influence her way of feeling and thinking. It fundamentally changes the way that she views time. Using a linguist as our main character, we come to understand that even the way in which we interact influences how we interpret our reality. I listen to the score quite often, and because I know embarrassingly little about language, although I can communicate and understand three of them, I didn't realize one of the themes was named after a linguistic hypothesis, Sapir-Whorf. Hope I'm saying that right. I've only seen it written. Um, but this is a theory that a language a person speaks influences how they see the world. I remember we learned about this briefly when I was learning ASL in a free library class during COVID lockdown. The teacher wasn't a linguist, he was a man hard of hearing who shared his story, which made him so passionate about teaching his class. And he was amazing, dude. He was incredible. I could not believe this was a free class. It was so much fun, and I learned so much. I remember he told us that it was going to offer us a new view. He encouraged us to converse with deaf people we met in life, and even tried to plan an outing for a new deaf cafe that was opening, because he believed strongly that this would even further alter our understanding. The way things are structured and communicated in ASL are very different from most spoken language. For instance, it's not heavily gendered at all. In another instance, your sign name is developed and given as a gift. And it might be different with different groups of people. It's the same name, but it holds different meaning to the group or individual that has given it to you. It's a huge faux pas to give yourself a name. Until then, until you're given it as a gift, you fingerspell your name. Even each language, you know, has a culture that's equally important to learn, or there's going to be blind spots that just simply can't be interpreted. The misunderstanding of weapon in the film comes from China's approach of understanding the aliens through a competitive game. The way that Louise breaks down her approach is especially interesting. We can't ask them what they're here for because of the many different reasons they may not even have the concept of that question. Interpreting weapon when they mean tool is subjected to the individual interpreter's experience and what they're bringing into the interaction. Louise more closely relates their phrasing to mean assistance. What's really exceptional about this film is how the story is structured and how we come to understand this as exactly the point. We assume Louise is having flashbacks because of how we're used to a story being structured. We understand nonlinear storytelling because of how we've seen it before. But in this case, what she is seeing has and hasn't already happened. Even though it is technically a part of her future, she has a much more dialectical process. These 2 points are equally true and false because of her altered perception of time. The way that she resolves intergalactic warfare is by taking the information she receives in the future and delivers it in the present, which is also the past. So, a theory that I personally love that's very closely related to this, and how I came to kind of understand before it was actually revealed in the film what was kind of going on, is the bootstrap paradox. So, say I went back in time, to visit Shakespeare, meeting him as a child, telling him about Hamlet, maybe even bringing Hamlet with me. And this, of course, then has such an impact on Shakespeare that he names his play Hamlet. Well, who invented Hamlet's namesake? I only named him Hamlet based on Shakespeare's play. But if I never went back in time and introduced him to Hamlet, he may have never named his play Hamlet. Although likely it was named after Prince Hamlet during Viking times, this may not be the greatest example, but you understand. Maybe I went back in time, introduced Hamlet's parents to Hamlet. Now everyone's confused, but I think everyone can relate to this. If you had the opportunity to change the future or the past, would you do it? Not for the reason that if you change this, something else terrible is going to take its place, but knowing that Hamlet's death would leave me shattered. Would I never get him in the first place? And I think it's important to implement these types of questions in our present. Would I never open myself to love again, knowing how broken the next love could be bound to leave me? I say absolutely not. Louise says absolutely not. Remember, people are not the tragic thing that happened to them. Hamlet shared his life for 15 years. Louise's daughter, maybe the same amount of time, and we'd still make the same decision because the time that they spent existing deserves to exist over and over again. I will cherish it for as long as I exist. People will know of his existence after I no longer exist. Not everyone's strong enough to make that decision. Not everyone has enough courage to face their pain. Not everyone can watch the person they love most in this world deteriorating while holding them and telling them how much they mean and how much they will continue to mean. And do it all over again, many times in your life, if you're lucky. Existence is not finite as we see it, but as the heptapods see it, a reverberation. Now I'm going to share a dream with you that seems to only mean something to me when I share it. But I'm going to tell it anyway because it's my B day. So I just watched that Black Mirror episode, San Junipero or whatever it's called. The one where like the people are uploaded to that afterlife, and I hated it. Like when I saw it, I was like, hate it, hate it. I thought the afterlife was like so boring. It's like it looked like a knockoff of the Jersey Shore. All they did was fall in love. Like I was like, not about it. And so of course this night, like I went to sleep and I had a similar dream. There was this salesman, and he wasn't very good at his job. He was young and unsure of himself, but, trying the best he could nonetheless. Now, this was a hot job space because the world was overpopulated, and they're trying to sell all the elderly people on death to, clear up some space. But this one sucked. It was crowded. It was a white sand beach with every square inch littered with people. There was trash, umbrellas, kiosks set up with people hawking you shit. It was hot, sticky, uncomfortable. And I was like, in this room, I'm just like, what? And all I afford is hell? What the fuck is? I hate this place. I hate it. No, thank you. And then, I don't know, the peripheral this kiosk kind of caught my eye because it was selling pets, and it's like not just any kind of pets. It was like any animal you could ever want, like a baby woolly mammoth. It's yours. A Pikachu, why not? It's like And of course, like, it caught my eye because of the array of baby animals, extinct, fictional or otherwise. But I didn't think much of it because, like, this place sucks so bad, you know? But then I heard it. Now, Hamlet had a different vocal range than most anything on this earth. I talked about the surgery he had to get in my signs video, and in that surgery, they had to shave away most of his voice box. And the surgeon said, he might not be able to ever bark again or really make any sound at all. Um, Now pugs make very deranged sounds, so I was a little devastated, like I might never get that, but he did end up developing a bark. And sounds even more debased than the average pug. I called it his gremlin noises because there was just nothing else to call them. I have videos of them, and if we were in public, people would just stare in downright fear. But at this moment, in the dream, I heard not just pug noises, not even just gremlin noises. I unmistakably heard Hamlet. And tears filled my eyes as I said, Hamlet? And the salesman was trying to tell me about how I could have any pet, even pets I already had. But I was drowning it out as the emotions flooded, and I got out, I haven't heard that sound in over 50 years. Before I woke up in actual tears. It wasn't a profound dream in terms of storyline, but the feelings certainly were. Bittersweet didn't even compare to how I was feeling. In the dream, it was like no time had passed, all the love right there, alive in a pug shaped space in my heart that may have been compartmentalized over the years, but can now be externalized once again. Hamlet and I existing together again, and this time forever. But when I woke up, even though Hamlet was still alive during this time, the feelings of living without him for over 50 years hit. There would be over 50 years without him. And I could look at this in two ways. And I only got 15 years. Or I had 15 years in a lifetime of such love that after 50 years, his noise turned this hell into the happiest plane of existence. And who knows what happened now, Who knows what happens after you die? Will I ever see Hamlet again? Will you ever see your loved ones? I don't know. Maybe as I hallucinate on the way out, I will. And we'll be sitting on Dog Beach, like I saw him the day I spread his ashes. Both of us young, nowhere to go but here, living in between the last blink. Will everyone get a happy ending? Will your life mean something? Will my neighbors? Will Buglies? Will mine? I don't know. Everything will die. But if you're open to embracing it, the stories we tell are not just an act of love, but in fact, maybe the cure for death. Have a happy time checking these two out. It doesn't have to be morose, but as one gets older and the load you carry becomes that much more, you have a rebel heart for feeling your feelings. Don't let numbed out, soulless, joyless husks tell you otherwise. Now I'm going to be discussing some early Peter Jacksons in my next one, so don't despair. We will be getting into some of the more fun moments of life in a few, but let me leave you with this. No matter when your birthday is, this year I'm sharing mine with all of you. Borrow some time on the 9th of November or whenever you're seeing this to celebrate yourself, the ones you love, and the nature of existence. And if you're feeling lonely in the present, if you feel like you couldn't and just can't possibly continue on, I feel you. Trust, I feel you. But no, that is merely perception that jails you in these thoughts. Physics will tell you the heptapods and rust coal are right, baby. Time is a flat circle. And if you still can't see it, do so out of spite. let your morbid mining neighbors continue your legacy as something I assure you, you are not. So get yourself a cupcake or a pumpkin pie shake. Watch a movie. Go outside. Look at the plants with whole ecosystems, societies. No one ever takes a moment to stop and perceive. And trust, when I do this in person with clients, I make them get up, go outside, and shout at them in front of the bushes to feast their eyes on what is in front of them, teeming with life. So, I have spared you of that. You've been spared. You've been spared of that. This is my birthday gift to you. Um, and if you're the kind of person, which I trust you probably are if you've watched all of this, that agrees that the bugs, reptiles, and little mice in those bushes have an inherent value, then why don't you? Happy day, everybody.